So I was in a meeting about a year ago. We're talking maybe 12 people in the room, product managers, a couple of engineers, a few business folks. And someone brings up using AI to automate part of the workflow. Standard 2026 conversation, right? And then someone goes, yeah, but what about the context window limitations? And I watched in real time half the room nod confidently while clearly having absolutely no idea what that meant. People were nodding like they were at a jazz concert, just vibing, no clue. And honestly, I had been that person. Not too long before that meeting, I was the guy using ChatGPT every single day, telling everyone it was going to change everything while secretly Googling what is a token at 11 p.m. because I didn't want to admit I had no idea what I was actually using. So in this video, I want to fix that for you before you end up nodding in a meeting about something you don't understand. There are 5 AI terms that if you actually understand them, not memorize the definition, but actually get them, you will be ahead of the overwhelming majority of people talking about AI right now, including a lot of people who sound like they know what they're talking about. Let's go. All right, first one, tokens. When I first started using AI tools, seriously, I kept seeing the word tokens everywhere, on pricing pages, documentation, Reddit threads, everywhere. And I just kind of skipped over it. I figured it was a technical thing that didn't really affect me. That was a mistake, because once I understood tokens, I understood why AI behaves the way it does. And I started writing much better prompts almost immediately. Here's the thing. AI models don't read words the way you and I read words. They don't even read letter by letter. They read in chunks called tokens. Think about it like this. Imagine you're reading a book, but instead of processing every word individually, you're reading in little bite-sized pieces. Sometimes a chunk is a whole word. Sometimes it's just part of a word. Sometimes it's punctuation. Each one of those chunks is a token. So the sentence, I love pizza, breaks into roughly 3 tokens. Easy. But longer or more unusual words might break into multiple tokens. The word hallucination, which we'll get to in a minute, might be 3 or 4 tokens on its own. Now, why should you care? Because every AI product you use, whether it's Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, all of them is counting tokens constantly. Counting how many tokens are in your message. Counting how many tokens are in its reply. That's how API pricing is calculated. That's why when you use the API, you pay per 1,000 tokens. But here's the more practical thing. Tokens are also why AI sometimes forgets what you said earlier in a long conversation. Every model can only hold a certain number of tokens in memory at once. Once that fills up, the oldest stuff gets dropped. And I remember the first time I noticed this. I was having this long back and forth with an AI about a project, and about 40 messages in, it started giving me advice that directly contradicted what we'd established at the beginning. I thought the model was just broken. Turns out I had basically overflowed the memory. That memory, that's the context window. Which brings us to number 2. Context window, picture a whiteboard. Not a metaphorical whiteboard, a literal whiteboard. The kind you had in school. The context window is that whiteboard. And everything in your AI conversation, your instructions, the chat history, any documents you've pasted in, the model's replies, all of that is being written on that whiteboard in real time. Now here's the constraint. The whiteboard has a fixed size. Once it's full, you can't add anything new without erasing something old. And the thing that gets erased is always the oldest stuff at the beginning of your conversation. This is the context window. Early models had small whiteboards. We're talking 4,000 tokens, maybe a few pages of text. Give one of those models a long document, and it could only read chunks of it at a time. Ask it to summarize a 50-page report, and it would either give you a summary of just the first part, or hallucinate connections between sections it could no longer see. I fell into this trap embarrassingly hard. I once pasted an entire research paper into a chat, asked a question about a conclusion from page 1, and the model, which had by then filled its context with the rest of the paper, just made something up. Stated it confidently. I nearly used it in actual work. But here's why people got genuinely excited when models started announcing context windows of 200,000 tokens, or even 1 million tokens. That's not a marginal upgrade. That's a fundamentally different capability. You can paste an entire book. You can hand it a month's worth of email threads. You can give it your company's entire documentation and actually get coherent answers. And practical lesson I took from this, whenever I'm working on something important with an AI summarizing a long document, analyzing data across a lot of context, I stay aware of where we are in the conversation. If it's been a long session, I either start fresh or repaste the critical context. Don't assume the model remembers what you told it an hour ago. Now number 3. And this is the one I genuinely wish someone had explained to me at the start. Because I want to tell you about a phase I went through where I was trying to use AI to write product descriptions. Very practical, very business. And I kept getting outputs that were strange, evocative, kind of poetic. One time it described a blender as a chrome oracle humming at the threshold of transformation. And you might thought I was doing something wrong, but I was not doing something wrong. The temperature was just too high. Temperature is a setting that controls how random or predictable an AI's output is. Think of it on a dial from 0 to 1 or sometimes beyond. At low temperature, close to 0, the AI plays it completely safe. Every time it picks the next word, it picks the most likely, most expected option. The output is consistent, accurate, reliable. Also, honestly, a little bland. Like a press release written by someone who's never felt emotions. At high temperature, AI starts taking risks. It reaches for unexpected words. It makes unusual connections. Sometimes that produces brilliance. Sometimes it produces chrome oracle. Depends on what you're going for. Once I understood this, I stopped being frustrated by outputs that felt off. If an AI is giving me weirdly creative answers when I want straightforward ones, temperature too high. If it's giving me dull, repetitive, completely safe outputs when I want something interesting, temperature too low. Most consumer apps don't let you touch this dial. They've set it to a middle ground default and left it there. But if you ever use an API or a developer tool or any kind of advanced AI playground, you'll see this setting. And now you actually know what to do with it. Now for next term, I have to tell you this story because it's too good not to, and also because it's the exact reason you need to understand hallucination. Early in my AI journey, I was putting together a presentation on a technical topic. Needed a few citations, a couple of statistics to back up a point. And guess what I did? I asked the AI for some research papers. It gave me 3 titles: authors, journals, publication years, summaries. That looked completely legit. And I put them in the presentation, sent the deck to my team, and someone came back and said, "Hey, I can't find this paper anywhere. Can you send a link?" I could not send a link because the paper did not exist. The AI had invented it from scratch, name, author, journal, everything. And it had stated all of this with the same calm confidence it uses when it's giving you the capital of France. That is hallucination. And it is one of the most important things to understand about how these models work, not so you stop using them, but so you use them correctly. Here's why it happens, and this is the key insight most people miss. AI language models are not databases. They are not looking anything up. They are not connected to a library of facts. What they are doing is predicting the next most likely token based on patterns they learned during training. They are, at the most fundamental level, autocomplete. Very sophisticated, incredibly capable autocomplete, but autocomplete. And when autocomplete doesn't know something, it doesn't stop and say, "I don't know." It generates what sounds like a correct answer, because generating plausible sounding text is literally what it was trained to do. The terrifying part isn't that AI makes mistakes. Every tool makes mistakes. The terrifying part is that AI makes mistakes with the exact same tone and confidence it uses when it's completely right. There's no signal. No hesitation, no asterisk. It just answers. So the rule I live by now is I never blindly trust AI for facts, statistics, specific citations, medical information, legal information, or anything where being wrong has real consequences. I use it as a starting point. Then I verify. But people who get burned by hallucination are usually people who skip that step. The people who use AI effectively have just built verification into their workflow. It's not a flaw you work around. It's just a property of the tool you account for. Last one. And honestly, this is the one that blew my mind the most when I finally understood it. Because once you see it everywhere. Retrieval augmented generation, I know. The name sounds like something from a computer science textbook written by someone who hates readers. But the concept is genuinely simple. Let me explain the problem it solves first. A regular AI model was trained on data up to a certain date. It knows a lot, a remarkable amount, actually, but it doesn't know what happened last week. It doesn't know the contents of your company's internal documents. It doesn't know anything about that PDF you just uploaded. Its knowledge is frozen at the point when training ended. So how does every chat with your PDF tool work? How does an AI customer support bot know your company's refund policy? How does an AI assistant answer questions about a research paper it's never seen before? I used to assume these tools had somehow trained the AI on that specific document. That felt like the obvious answer. Load the document in. Model learns. Done. That's not what's happening. Not even close. Here's what's actually happening, and it's a lot more elegant. When you upload a document, the system breaks that document into chunks, paragraphs, sections, whatever makes sense. It then stores those chunks in a special kind of database that organizes content by meaning rather than keywords, a vector database. When you ask a question, the system doesn't immediately go to the AI. It first searches that database, what chunks are most relevant to this question, retrieves the top results, and then hands those results to the AI along with your question. It basically says, hey, here's some relevant information from the document. Now answer the question using this. That's RAG. Retrieve the relevant context. Feed it to the model. Generate an answer. 3 steps. Done. I remember the exact moment this clicked for me. I was using a tool that let me chat with a legal document. I was marveling at how well it understood the document. And then it gave me an answer about a clause that wasn't in the document at all. It had run out of retrieved context and started hallucinating. And I thought, wait, if it truly knew the document, it wouldn't do that. It's not learning anything. It's just doing a very clever search and feeding the results to a language model. That realization changed how I think about AI products entirely. When a product says it knows your data, it doesn't mean the AI has internalized it. It means someone has built a retrieval system that feeds the relevant parts of your data into the model's context window at the right moment. Which is still impressive engineering! It just demystifies the magic a little. And demystifying the magic is exactly what this video is about. And here's the honest answer. Understanding these 5 concepts will not make you an AI engineer overnight. You don't need a PhD. You don't need to write code. But knowing what a token is means you'll write prompts that actually work. Knowing what a context window is means you'll stop getting frustrated when an AI forgets earlier parts of a conversation. Knowing about temperature means you'll stop blaming the tool when you should be adjusting the settings. Knowing about hallucination means you'll build the verification habit before it embarrasses you publicly. And understanding RAG means you'll be able to look at any AI product and immediately understand what's happening under the hood. That's a completely different relationship with this technology. Not using it blindly, using it with actual understanding. And in a world where AI is genuinely everywhere and most people are vaguely gesturing at it without really knowing what they're saying, that gap matters. I was that person nodding in meetings. Now I'm the person who can actually explain what's happening. It didn't take years. It took sitting down with these 5 ideas and actually thinking them through. You just did that in about 11 minutes. If this helped you, honestly, the best thing you can do is share it with someone who's been nodding through AI conversations without fully understanding them. We've all been that person. Let's get everyone up to speed. Like the video, if it was useful, it genuinely helps more people find this content. Subscribe if you want more of this kind of thing, because I make a lot of it. And drop a comment. Which of these 5 was the one you didn't fully understand before today? I'm genuinely curious. I read every single one. See you in the next video.